This lesson is still 12.3, subtracting rational numbers, and today it's example 3, which is finding the distance between two numbers. And so essentially it's the same thing that you did on Monday and Tuesday, and we're subtracting, because to find the distance between two things, you kind of need to find the range, which is another word to mean subtraction in math. If I said that I am 5 feet away from my front door, you would never use that as like a negative number. You'd never say I'm negative 5 feet away from something, or I'm negative 2 feet away from something, which makes this a little bit more confusing if you ask me, because they want you to think about absolute value. I would write that down. Because again, distance is always represented, or usually represented, as a positive number. So I'm going to write down distance between two things is usually a positive number. So here's what your problems will look like today. It'll say find the distance, and then it'll put two numbers next to each other with a comma. So it might say negative 2 2/3, comma 2 and 2/3. No, 2 1/3. Making all sorts of mistakes today. Here we go. Okay. This is actually the third time I've tried to film this video. I don't know why I'm struggling so much. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so we're going to find the distance between those two numbers. On a number line, I'll just draw a rough one real quick. You know that 2 1/3 would be above negative 2 2/3. It would be going down like this. If you're finding the distance between those two numbers, basically you want to know how much is in between, how many numbers are in between. And so when you subtract, believe it or not, it doesn't matter which number you write first, because it ends up getting the same answer either way, which is kind of odd. So I'm going to erase this so I've got some more room. So finding the distance, we want to create a subtraction problem. We've got negative 2 2/3 minus 2 1/3. And then you're just going to follow your rules for subtraction. So keep, change, flip. I'm going to make these improper now. I'm going to go up here because I'm running out of room. So multiply, add, 6, 7, 8. This becomes negative 8/3. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. This becomes negative 7/3. I like this because I have the common denominators already. So I'm going to add these two numerators. That would become negative 15/3. And you know that technically that this sign here, this fraction sign, is division. So this problem is technically negative 15 divided by 3, which then would be negative 5. Now, again, going back to this point that I was trying to make up here when I started talking all confusing, the distance between two things is usually a positive number. If you say, what's the distance between negative 2/3 and 2 1/3, you wouldn't say negative 5. So at the very end, you have to take the absolute value of that number. So make that a note for you. Take the absolute value at the end. So the absolute value of negative 5, of course, is positive 5. And you're always going to end up with a positive answer if you're talking about distance between two things. I'm thinking maybe I should do one more because I felt like I was getting a little bit confusing there. So actually, why don't I help you start your first problem, which is 13. That sounds fair. All right, so 13 says, find the distance between negative 2 1/2 and negative 5 3/4. Okay, so you're going to set it up as a subtraction problem. So negative 2 1/2 minus negative 5 3/4. Then you'll keep, change, flip. Change to addition, flip to be the opposite sign. So this will be a positive 5 3/4. Next, I would make it improper. Change back to blue. So I'm going to multiply and add. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. So this is negative 5 halves. 4 times 5 is 20 plus 3 is 23. So this is 23 fourths. My next step is to make common denominators. So I'm going to multiply this fraction times 2 to make my denominator of 4. And then here, now that I have common denominators, I'm going to work with my numerators. Negative 10 plus 23 would be 13. So this time we get a positive answer. That's a good thing. So we've got 13 fourths. You could put in your answer like that. Or, because if you take the absolute value of that, it's still going to be positive. Or 4 goes into 13 3 times. That would be 12 with 1 left over. So either one of these answers works. The distance between these two numbers up here at the top is 3 1/4 or 13 fourths, like of a unit of a number.